Turn to the neighbor on your left and tell them, never tell a child to stop arguing. Turn to the neighbor on your right and tell them, never tell a child to stop arguing. I think I have the coolest job in the world, cooler than, Vimal, cooler than PLO, because I teach kids how to ask the question parents hate the most. I teach them to ask the question, why? Whether or not there's a curfew, or if they should eat junk food or not. The question the kid will always ask you is why, and it's my job to ensure that they ask that question very well and make your lives very difficult. My name is Njuguna Macharia. I am the founder of the African Debate Academy, a social enterprise built to teach kids critical thinking, communication, debate, public speaking, and the silent transformation of an entire generation, turning them from sheep into thinkers. When I was in high school, and I want to tell you where this story began, I used to get notes that sent home to my dad, and they used to tell my dad, your child argues a lot. He didn't like that note because every teacher had a hard time convincing me that what they said is true. I then went into a situation where the school needed a debate team to go and represent them at the famous Great Debaters Contest hosted by Julie Gishuru. And it was on live television. And they needed 3 brilliant speakers to go and represent the school. I was then selected automatically. And I was great at it. No practice, no training. I showed up. I gave great speeches, but I lost in the semi-final. I felt sad. I was like, I'll try again next time. 2 years later, I walk into small law school, and somebody walks into our class on the first day of law school and says, we're looking for people to go represent us in a debate competition. They didn't tell us it was the national championship at the time. And as usual, I was like, pick me, the pick me energy. I can do this. I'm ready for this. I then went on to go to the national championship. Again, did exceedingly well, but lost again in the semifinals. I thought it was a curse. And so I tried again the next year, in second year, and guess what? I lost another semifinal. I knew it was a terrible, terrible feeling. I hated losing. I thought I was done with debate forever, and I'm never going to do it again. A few weeks later, I get a call from someone who tells me, Mr. Macharia, do you have a passport? Do you want to represent your country not just at the national championships, but at the continental championships? Remember, I quit 2 weeks ago. But like many of my decisions, I just said what? Yes, I'm ready to go. And so I took a flight, not knowing where I was going, to Gweru, Zimbabwe, in the middle of nowhere. And I showed up for this African championship with hundreds of young people, university students. And guess what? I received the beating of my life. I thought I had lost badly locally. I went on to now lose internationally and to lose miserably. At the wreckage of that tournament, I realized what I had been missing for years. I had lost the point, the entire point of why I was doing what I was doing. I realized that debate was never about winning. It was never about proving that I can win or to prove my point. It was about learning to take an idea that I disagreed with, understand it honestly, and to contend with it fairly. And I would be lying to you if I said that this transformation happened in the click or in the twinkle of an eye. Actually, no, it was several weeks of crying and wallowing that brought me to this realization that sometimes we don't stand on the stage to win. We stand on the stage to understand different ideas. And I think as society, we've got this completely backwards. All over the continent right now, there are classrooms, living rooms, where children are being told that exactly what I was told and exactly what you tell your children, which is sit down, be quiet, respect your elders, don't ask your parents why. And this child is not malfunctioning. This child is showing you for free the single most valuable raw material society can ever have. This is a mind that refuses to simply swallow what it's handed. It is as if we're standing and telling these people that you're a great diamond, please stop being rough. And the way we fix this is by doing what I told you to say in the beginning. Never tell a child to stop arguing. I'm going to give you 3 points in debate fashion why this is very important and why debate is extremely important. Firstly, this comment that this child is always arguing or argues too much is not a badge or a mask of dishonor. It is actually a very huge compliment. In Kenya, we have a surplus of smart children. But what we need to do is that we need to teach these kids how to question ideas and how to question thoughts and patterns. What I do, or what my job basically is to teach these kids, maybe the football fanatic, why the league should be cancelled. I need to teach the religious fanatic the skeptic's case. I need to teach the anti-government rioter the pro-government position. And I need to teach the person who believes in Nyamachoma that vegans actually have a point. This is my job, is to teach people how to question ideas they fundamentally do not believe in. I actually challenge you. I think debate is extremely important. That this process is so important that I actually recommend everyone to try it. Stand up and believe and speak in favor of something you completely do not believe. It has a very huge impact on what you become as a person. It's basically our entire lives in adulthood, right? Questioning ideas, asking the question, why? Because I want to tell you why I actually do this. And I think this is part of the story. It is extremely important that children learn that they can question these things and that every idea is valid. Let me give you a story of Baraka. Baraka is a student who I used to teach in class. And Baraka did something very dangerous. One day, a man came into their house during the women's chama meeting. And in that meeting, he sold the mom the greatest MLM dream that Kenyans have been sold for so long. And Baraka walked into the kitchen and told mom, I think you're wrong. In where I'm from, questioning your parents and telling them they are wrong can land you in very huge trouble. And so Baraka sat down and explained to his mom that I think this person is lying to you. He then went on in front of the whole chama and asked the person, where is this money coming from? 2, where did you get the money to pay the last group of people? And 3, what happens if people don't sign up? Will we still get our money? And after a huge back and forth with the great MLM marketer, everyone realized actually this thing was actually a scam. And the person left with no sign-ups. The mom, very displeased with Baraka, sent him to bed very early. But 1 week later, during a competition, the mom came and asked me, I didn't know my child could think like this. It's Amara, who one day when I was at a tournament, came and asked me, Macharia, why are people so against the housing levy? I believe that the home is the most dignified place a person can have, and a dignified home is the most important thing we can do. I disagree that it should be a mandatory levy on people, but I think social housing is a great idea. It is questions like these that drive me to do what I do. Children who question informatively, people who ask the right questions to the people who share information with them. And the reason why you must pay attention to this is because we are living in the most manipulative, informative age there ever was. Everybody is trying to lie to your children. Once again, turn to your neighbor and tell them, everybody is trying to lie to your children. It could be a neighbor. It could be a teacher. It could be the algorithms on TikTok and Twitter. It could be the news that they are watching. It could be every source of information they are receiving. Therefore, we must not train our children what to believe. We must train our children to ask themselves, why do I believe what I believe? It is this argument that ensures that society survives. It is this argument that ensures that a child cannot be lied to. It is this that ensures that every single society functions on the basis of truth. Debate is not a competition to win. It is the path to finding truth. Everybody assumes that we have a shortage of clever children. Actually, the easiest job I have is to find clever children. You've watched it on this stage. So many brilliant children are there in our societies today. What actually the problem is, and I should know because this is my life's work, and I tell you this for a fact, is the adults. It's you. Because I had to start by convincing my own parents, who spent 25 years giving me the best education, teaching me, I could be a great lawyer, sent me to the best law schools in the country. Shout out to Strathmore Law School. And at the end of the degree, I showed up to their house and I told them, I'm here to become a professional debater. I could see the hopes run out of their eyes. I could see the glimmer or the dim lights coming. What are you thinking? And this argument, obviously, at the beginning, didn't make sense. And everyone thought I was crazy. For a long time, it was, in my worst days, I also did believe I was crazy. Because many times, we don't think about building others. We think about building ourselves. Africa does not have a shortage of people who can start fires. It has a shortage of people who can sustain fires. We had to do the hard work, the unglamorous work of setting up infrastructure, building coaches, building teams, building leagues, building curriculums, going to schools, running programs. This is the job that was unglamorous. And it did not bring the attention that everybody thought it would. It was actually not photographed. It was discarded. I was called a fool. I was called crazy. I was called a waste of time. I was called many things. But right now, I stand having trained 50,000 young people how to think better, how to speak better, how to understand things better, how to take different ideas and to question them in the right way. And in a lot of small ways, I think this is a bigger impact than my $200 million mergers and acquisitions maybe I could have done in my entire career. It was changing my mindset from those losses in Zimbabwe, from less about winning to more about understanding ideas. Every country, we have dozens of young people who can argue, and Africa is at the forefront of this. Only recently, I did one of the craziest things anyone can ever imagine. I somehow convinced the whole world to come to Kenya and debate. I somehow brought 76 countries from all over the world for a debate competition, a world championship here in Nairobi, the World Cup of Debate. And what this taught me was that it is not about the shortage of smart kids in the country. It's about the shortage of rooms we allow these kids to enter. Kenya, which in 2020 was ranked 67th or 70th globally in debate, somehow made it to the top 4, not because the kids got smarter, it's because they were given the opportunity to compete at the highest level and to prove their point. Not only did we do well, we beat Singapore, the crown jewel of our country that our president wants us to be. And it was a huge moment of testimony that if you put your children in the right rooms and you train them how to think the right way, they can compete with anyone, they can debate with anyone, and they can win against anyone. And so just to wrap up my speech, and I told you I would only just be trying to prove to you one thing. Never tell a child to stop arguing. I want to leave you with some words of wisdom. That child who argues with you, who asks you why, that is your future negotiator. That is your future leader. That is your future Vimal, PLO, ambassador. These are the kids that are going to be at the center of the transformation of this continent. We're a generation that is beautifully difficult. Young people who are very hard to lie to and very hard to fool. They make every argument that doesn't make sense fall apart, calmly, with complete sentences, looking at you straight in the eye and being terrifyingly confident that what you're saying is actually a lie. People ask me, of all the things, why debate? I actually believe it's the most important skill any person can learn. It is the single most valuable thing any child can learn. And I don't say this lightly. I teach many children many different things. Think about it like this. We teach our kids how to read. We teach our kids how to calculate, how to code, how to dress. But debate is the only skill which works when the information they are being given is wrong. The assumption here is that if the information being given is true, therefore, the child would receive it positively. But I've told you we live in an age of misinformation. Debate is the skill that actually preserves all other skills because it actually asks you to question, is the source of my information correct? And even if that information is wrong, how do I filter through that? So here's one thing I'll ask of you. And it's cheaper than anything else you'll ever be asked to fund or do this year. Next time your child walks into your room and wants to argue with you, where he questions you, challenges you, refuses the easy answer, take a breath. And instead of arguing, say the most 4 radical words you can ever say to any child that would change their lives. Tell them, go on, convince me your point is correct. That will create a child who is going to not only change the world, but is going to transform their generation. Turn to your neighbor and tell them, never tell a child never not to argue with you. Thank you so much.